Welcome to MACNA 2021, Supporting an Equitable Trade. Our next speaker is Tom Bowling. Tom is the MACNA 2019 MACNA Aquarist of the Year and is the founder and CEO of Biota and just likes being underwater. As a lifetime hobbyist, Tom has focused his attention on changing the aquarium market. He saw an opportunity to remove the demand for wild-caught fish by culturing rare and exotic species in captivity. Here at MACNA 2021, speaking to us about aquaculture in the islands, training indigenous islanders to be the world leaders in marine ornamental aquaculture is Tom Bowling. Welcome, Tom, to MACNA 2021.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks very much for having me. I actually really did want to extend a sincere thanks to you and the MACNA team for making it happen. I think it's so important in these challenging times, as we all have grown used to dealing with, that we maintain this kind of level of comradeship and sort of intellectual stimulus. I think it does get tough, and it's been quite interesting to be in the US for the last couple of months and sort of experience it firsthand, because I've been quite lucky in Palau. We haven't had COVID for a while, so yeah, it's good to be involved and back amongst you guys. Primarily, firstly, I should say I'm going to start with a brief description about what we do and our other facilities, so that we have a good rounding on what Biota is up to, and then we'll move out to Palau and discuss those issues there. So, as Kevin mentioned, my interest in this industry was essentially using the fecundity, or the massive breeding potential of the fish's life history, or life strategy, I should say, as an advantage to the industry by the elements of aquaculture, applying the fact that they produce millions, sometimes billions of eggs that in the wild mostly actually a massive source of protein to all their other friends in the ocean, but and obviously what we're doing is jumping in at that point and harvesting the eggs, and then producing a much higher number than that of what would survive in the wild. So our business model is to use the fundamentals of aquaculture and science to create a sustainable and renewable product that is developed in the country of the resource origin. I think it's really important to note that those animals do come from certain places, and that was part of the vision that we wanted to share, was to actually culture those animals where they come from, and the people that are from there should benefit. So as you can see, we've got the benefits include jobs, and we do hire citizens and women as a priority. The training means that we are directly affiliated with relevant government authorities and with NGOs in country. And we also bring quite a lot of people to our facility for tours and training, so that it gives them a leg up with the other research projects going on island. We also work in restocking the species of concern, which, whether it's food fish or endangered animals, we've worked in both fields and released quite a lot of animals. And then, of course, we also make contributions where we can, both financially and with our resources like boats and holding tanks and scientific knowledge to non-profit organizations on island. So what do we actually do? Ornamental aquaculture is obviously this is where the wheels are turning and generating the cash flow that allows us to continue with the other work. So we produce aquarium fish as a sustainable alternative to some wild fish species. And our facilities are in Palau, Hawaii, North Carolina, and sales from Fort Lauderdale. Now, in Palau, we also have a research department where we work on food fish species. And for that, we've been focusing on species that do not have high protein requirements, or at least sustainable protein sources, in order to find a species that can truly be considered a sustainable food fish. We also work on restocking. So part of our lease agreement with the state that we are in, which is IRI state, is that we actually release about 10% of our production space is essentially put towards producing rabbitfish. And for the last 2 years, I think we did 60,000 rabbitfish plus about 1,000 bumphead parrotfish. Now, that figure isn't very high if you consider that we can get 3 million eggs every month. However, these fish are subadult, which means they've been raised to usually more than 2 inches in length, which does give them a very big advantage going back to the ocean. Okay, so we'll start with Biota, North Carolina. This facility is definitely in an unusual location compared to Palau, and obviously it's there because of Todd Gardner. So he and I have been talking for years, and it was actually at the MACNA where he awarded me my Aquarist of the Year trophy or plate, and that was where he and I connected and kind of realized that we could really make something happen. And so the vision there was that what I wanted on our list of animals to sell was some more unique, hard to get animals. And of course, he'd already done the work with the Zhongai, the Cuban basslet, which was I thought was a great species that fits our model, which is essentially to something that you can't really get from the wild. And by breeding them, we produce a lot more. We can bring the price down, make them accessible. They're still a little pricey, but they're nowhere near what they used to be. And then, of course, like the flathead perch as well. It's also a fish that's quite difficult to get, and it's actually a fish I've always wanted to have personally. I've still never had one. So yeah, at that facility, it's a collaboration with the Carteret Community College, which Todd lined up by developing a relationship there with them. They happened to have an aquaculture facility that was not particularly productive at the time. I guess there was no one there running it, and so Todd managed to line up a deal with Biota and himself to go in there and help sort of develop the systems, get them rebuilt, and start them running. And now things are moving. They've got more students involved. We've actually hired several students. I don't even remember how many anymore, but there's been a constant flow of interested people jumping on board and learning with us, and obviously helping us produce an animal. And that's obviously a win-win in the sense of the relationship. And that's the plan that we're trying to do, is to work with research institutions to try and benefit from both. Okay, we'll jump across to Hawaii now. Our at the Biota facility, which is within the Oceanic Institute, is managed by Kevin Barden. His wife is also with him there, Marion, and they're running the management, and so they're doing algae production, larval growth and feeding, and then obviously through to grow out, packing, shipping, and getting everything to the guys in Florida. That facility is a little bit different to our other models, and I think that's interesting to note in the sense that it didn't really occur to me until I was sort of really putting this presentation together that each facility is quite unique. In North Carolina, it's a few species and not even very big numbers, but they're of higher value. In Hawaii, our focus is pretty much on one species, and it's Kevin's done great work there in increasing the survival and the settlement quality. We definitely had problems with HLLE in the past, and even with just general survivorship. And through a lot of hard work and collaboration with the OI team, they've managed to raise that survival significantly. And now I can actually say we're truly at commercial production numbers. So the Oceanic Institute, this is the director is Chad Callan, and he did the groundwork with the yellow tang. He's done maybe 12 or more years, I guess, of work towards that, and definitely did some groundbreaking work there with the live feed technology and also just the spawning behavior and egg collection. And so we were very fortunate to develop the relationship with HPU to the point where they would allow us to get involved and assist them to sort of keep pushing the science and improving the production data, which we have been steadily doing. So it's a really good collaboration, strong teammates, and it does feel like this relationship is an excellent model for sort of the industry of aquaculture, particularly in ornamentals. And I guess they're the last point we're saying, that we do aim to expand on other species there eventually, but it would be with a similar reproductive strategy, which is sort of mass pelagic egg spawning. Difficult larvae to rear, but once you get the parameters dialed, you can usually get the numbers through. Okay, so now we're going to skip back to Biota, Florida, because that's where we do our sales from. So that's our team there having dinner when I was there recently. Obviously there we take care of sales and marketing, all the receiving and handling of the fish, acclimation and quarantine. And from there, there's a fantastic team. They're super motivated. They know what it takes to deal with live animals, which I'm sure most of you do too, which is, late nights and shipping on random days and all the stresses involved with keeping a lot of animals alive. They've done a great job, and it's really exciting to see the team build on its own. There's a lot of them there are friends and very passionate aquarists, as opposed to all being highly educated scientists. And I actually find that it's a stronger team that way if you let them kind of build on their own personal relationships, as opposed to just focusing on people's resume. So you said there's a lot going on. There's packing and shipping almost every day. We've started exporting, so that's definitely added to the stress load. And that's why we took on our shipping manager, Roy Gear, and he's been doing a great job as well, just keeping the wholesale quantity shipments moving. And Jake has been handling the retail side. Yeah, I guess here I'm saying it's unfortunately the shipping has remained reliable through the last 2 years, which I think we can all agree on has been a lifesaver. Both that and the internet has made sort of the COVID existence bearable. And it's sort of fantastic how reliable they are. We really put a lot of pressure on our shipping partners, and they deliver. The facility itself has been there for 7 years. We've been receiving animals, all aquaculture animals from around the world: Indonesia, Panama, Palau, Hawaii, and Micronesia. There's, that's quite a handful as it is, but we are hoping to add a few more countries to that in the coming year, just because of species diversity. Basically, we want to expand on that. As I said here, our team is a strong mix of experience and passion, which I do believe is important when you're talking about live animals. And here I'm also mentioning that the retail only commenced due to COVID. So in the beginning of 2020, we had a significant drop in sales based on pet stores closing down. And we did realize that there was a need to keep, obviously there was a need to keep increasing our sales and finding different ways to move. So we did put a shop online and had pretty good feedback. And now we're hoping to build on that. And there are benefits in the sense that we like to deal with our customers directly and answer questions. It's a lot more work, but the satisfaction level is a lot higher, and the return customer is also a lot higher. And then, of course, it's also a lot less stress on the animal to just go straight from our facility to somebody's home aquarium that's ready to receive them. Okay, so now we're going to move over to Palau, which is actually what this talk is about. So the original facility there, and that facility was actually built by the Taiwanese government to breed rabbit fish for restocking. And so they built this facility, and then I guess the funding or the government changed, funding ran out, and the facility sat empty for 3 or 4 years. And I'd happened to be in Palau, and I had applied for an aquaculture business license there, but I had no real game plan. And the government actually contacted me and asked me if I was interested in the hatchery. So it was by chance that we got the lease, and of course part of that is why our agreement also includes restocking fish, which actually I kind of insisted on that because it also helped with public relations and how people see us there, and it has helped a lot. So our manager there is Manu Guerrero. He's a ornamental specialist from Spain. He used to work in sort of the more of the sales display side of things, but he's always been interested in breeding and sales. And so he's been a real asset to us there. We've got a really strong team. You can see there are a bunch of happy guys and girls that love their job. And again, I can't stress that the passion for the animals is always, it's got to be there with an employee or they shouldn't be there, and I don't want them there. We average sort of 40 to 50% women. That's a topic that's been coming up a lot lately, and we all notice very clearly that the women do a better job in the lab and with the larval fish. I think it's maybe an attention to detail advantage. I'm not sure, but there's a notable difference. We are focused on a wide range of species, so we also do some of the lower value but higher quantity species like gobies and blennies and the filefish, for example. We do a lot of filefish, but we also are producing pygmy angels, namely the coral beauty and mandarin fish there in large quantities now. And so that's sort of our two staple species that we're focusing on there. So the concept, again, as mentioned in the beginning, was about having a facility in the place of origin of the species. that we intended to culture. So this is both beneficial to the people that are going to get jobs out of there, but it's also beneficial to the species itself. By being in its home territory, you're going to produce a better product naturally. And I guess the other vision there, create a new team of professionals in remote areas in order to increase technology and R&D potential on site. So that is obviously notable in the sense that a lot of these people in these remote island locations don't really get access to this kind of technology and knowledge. And by sharing it, we've had a tremendous impact there. We're also benefiting as a company, as personally. I can live there and call it my home. But also, it's we're actually finding incredible talent there. We're finding people that have a serious or a notable connection with nature, and they love working random hours, and they know that the animals need the attention, and they often know things that we don't even realize. They come up with solutions that we haven't even thought of. So it's been a real eye opener to be out there and live in Palau. So it has had its challenges. We were the first private aquaculture business to register with the Bureau of Marine Resources. So that means that, there were clam farmers there already, Palauan farmers that were growing their own clams and exporting. However, they were not required to have the same permitting that I was, being a foreigner. So it was already happening there, but I had to sort of change the policies a little bit there, because I had to have a business license and a state license and a collecting license and a bunch of other licenses. So it was a process that we worked with them to assemble, and now we're sort of to be involved and help and having good relationships with that group. In the beginning, our business was often misunderstood. This led to confusion and legal issues where people rightly reacted to us thinking that we were just taking animals without any permits whatsoever. So they actually thought we were not just wild collecting, but doing it without permits, without permission. And so that took some time to get the message across that everyone. And once that happened, the public opinion changed completely. We do feel a strong sense of support, and we're involved in the community. Shipping was also very tough. Our product wasn't heavy, and that was what they were interested in at the time. There was a lot of yellowfin tuna being exported, and we never got on the priority list. So that was something that we had to deal with. We had to pay much bigger freight fees and had to use various airlines until the marine sanctuary came into effect. And after that, then the shipping became much easier. We could ship pretty much on whenever we want, although now there's only one airline operating in Palau, so our choices are pretty limited to once a week. Okay, so yeah, we've worked quite a lot with the community college. We've been doing our own internships over summer, and we've also been sort of teaching how to run actual science with these guys, and it's definitely had a profound effect both on increasing our survivability of our species, but also giving the students, direct practical skills or I guess experience in using science to better a business. And for sure, we saw the difference in many people that came in and went through a research trial with us. We can see the benefits and the understanding and how that's hopefully going to help change their careers for the better. I'm just doing some examples here of the variety of species. So obviously these are not all from Palau. There's quite a mix here. There's private home breeders. There's Indonesia. There's North Carolina, Panama. There's a whole mix of stuff going on here. And it's just incredible to have that kind of variety. I would not have believed it had I seen this 5 years ago. Okay, so another issue that is often disregarded with aquaculture, I guess these days it's taken more seriously, but certainly there's a lot of environmental damage done from things like, or species like tilapia that were freely passed around the world, in the 80s or even earlier. And so I guess it's important these days to be fully aware of the potential problems that can happen, because now we've got lionfish destroying the Caribbean and all around the Atlantic, and those factors could have been avoided had some policies been in place. And I guess going forward, those policies have to be in place and considered strongly, And that's the other reason to take the business to the place of origin of the animal, because then you literally have no holdups. We manage our disease accordingly. We take care of our wastewater accordingly. However, there's still no real biothreat problem in the sense of any fish escaping, and even with the disease, that's only a disease that does occur there. And sure enough, you can exacerbate the disease in the tanks, but that's something we take action on, and we can sterilize the tanks before doing any kind of drainage or dumping. And it's important to have those policies and acknowledge them, rather than the old school fashion of just dealing with it later. It's quite unfortunate. So yeah, this training has created, here we have a young man, maybe 16 years old or 17 years old. He's a Palau national swimming champion, and he basically didn't know what he was going to do. He finished school and he's been considering joining the army and doing some and I know him from my daughter's swim club, and I brought him in for a few days and just said, try this out, see if you like it. And now he's one of our best workers. He's there every day with an enthusiasm and a keen eye. What he's doing there is counting or catching fish eggs, which takes a lot of work and a lot of work on the back and everything. And he's more than happy to get into the tough jobs. And it's just really inspiring to see these kids find something that they're into and run with it. So, and also on the left here we have Yule. She's our broodstock manager, and she's also now managing the guys out on the clam farm. And she's probably one of the most reliable workers that I've ever had. She loves the job, and obviously she's passionately involved with the well-being of our animals. Okay, so we've been getting into corals lately. It's taken a little while to develop the process and get our species dialed in. Some of the species on the photos here are not from us. They're actually from Bali, from Vincent, actually. And then that's obviously helped us dial in the variety of species that we want to do in Palau. So obviously there's we don't all want to be doing the same species. So I've been trying to diversify and find species in Palau that are not coming from Indonesia. And that way we're just increasing the variety as opposed to the quantity. Here's another mix of maricultured corals, and that's from a random maybe 3 or 4 different suppliers, all obviously aquacultured, and there's soft, hard corals, so anthids. It's a good mix. Okay, so in Palau, as I said with the other facilities, we've been setting up affiliations with research bodies. In Palau, we've recently signed an agreement with the Palau Community College to work alongside in both helping rebuild and develop one of their research facilities in the north of the Big Island. And part of that is to work on a new syllabus to basically update the syllabus on aquaculture and get that standard very high. Our aim is to actually sponsor students to come learn and work at Biota, but then actually get them through their degree with proper aquaculture industry ready training for the Pacific, because that's where it should be happening. And yeah, now we've hired quite a few of them now working for us, and also maybe working part-time, and then also we're sponsoring a few to actually go to the Hawaii facility at Oceanic Institute and start doing their studies there, as well as working for us over there. Something that we've been working on quite a while is just working with local farmers and chiefs, and obviously a lot of this is relationship building and getting not just to know them, but to build a relationship with them where they believe what you do what you say you're going to do. I think that they've had a rough history of people not doing that, and so you do have to prove yourself there and show that you're willing to be around and get the job done. Here I'm with one of my local chiefs from IRA, and we went up to the Triangle State, which is an incredible atoll in the north of Palau. The most amazing corals I've seen, and we're working to do a coral project there where we send a boat and bring back corals that are ready to be in your aquariums. So restocking is our program. So you can see here we've got we usually invite a bunch of kids to come down and do it. We've had all the different high schools and classes come down we give them a tour and explain, that one day they might actually be eating one of these fish, and the benefits of that, and why it means something. And that is one of their favorite species, and they use big seine nets to catch them, so that when they fish them hard, they usually a lot. So it's good to be putting fish back and assuring them that there's going to be more for them in the future. This is the kind of bites that we do, and just we usually have a barbecue and get the kids down there and release a bunch of fish. That was a fun group. We do it about every quarter. We try and grow fish for 3 months, and then it's about 3 to 4 times a year that we do the restocking. And the benefits of that, I still have to complete the research, in the sense to actually prove that what we're releasing is being fished. And we're working on a DNA study, so I have samples of all the broodstock, and in about a year I'll probably start taking samples from fished rabbit fish in our areas, and see if we can actually connect one to our fish that we released, which would be a great story. Promotional a plug, I guess, for releasing the fish as well, is that we do say that we release fish for every fish purchased. The numbers pretty much stack up, that we do release about 2 fish for every sale. That was last year, and as the numbers go up, hopefully they do, from both fish to be released and fish sold, and hope to get that number a lot higher. And I actually hope to implement this policy both in Hawaii and potentially North Carolina. However, the legislation there makes it a little harder with the releasing, so we will definitely have to run through that and make sure that the genetics and the disease issues are dealt with prior to doing any releasing. I'm just going to touch on Foodfish Aquaculture, as it's something that we've been doing in Palau that did create some stories in the past, and I guess it's that we do want to more species like the bumpfish. That was a very difficult large, as were the triggerfish that we've done, which is the red tooth trigger and the clown trigger. They're difficult to work with, especially the triggerfish, because their eggs are sessile. They're like hidden in the rocks, and it's usually a matter of luck. I have a scooter and I race around on the reefs and try and find them on the right moon phase. And if I get the eggs, then we usually get a good batch. But that's nowhere near as reliable as the bumpheads, which are broadcast spawning, and they're doing it 4 days a week, every month, guaranteed. You can literally pull up at the dive site and say, okay, in 5 minutes it's going to go, and roll in, and there they are doing that. So it's quite incredible that we have that population as well. This is just some photos here of the egg collecting. So in that bottom photo, that's where I'm collecting eggs from the blue line sea bream, which is, as I've said before, it's one of the best dives I've ever done. And it's proven to be viable. It's a tough dive, and some dives I never get any eggs because the current's too strong. But in general, usually every year I get enough eggs to run at least 1 or 2 batches. And actually, I'm quite happy or proud to say that there's about 40 full-grown adult blue line sea bream at the Georgia Aquarium still swimming around now that they bought about 5 years ago. So that's pretty wonderful in my opinion. Okay, that's just some photos of the juvenile bumpheads. And we're also working on the red snapper, so that's more about food fish again, and food security issues there. And that concludes my talk. I'm looking forward to some questions. And once again, thank you, MACNA and MACNA, for putting this together.
Thank you very much, Tom, for speaking about supporting an equitable trade. It's great to see what you're accomplishing, not only in the United States, but in Palau. And I'm going to ask, actually, what comes to mind, is Palau in the United States?
Good question. It's actually what's known as a U.S. protectorate. So it's the Republic of Palau, but it is a protectorate, which obviously it has benefits for that. It has the US dollar, and it has the US Postal Service, which is phenomenal for us to get our mail. However, they do have their own legislation laws, and they're quite proud of the fact that they are a republic, as they should be. for such a small place. Yeah, it's quite unique.
Now, I want to promote more aquaculture through the Pacific. Do you have one or two kind of words of advice that you could give to someone who might be trying to do something or might want to replicate this elsewhere? Is there anything they can go into it, with an open mind, or what would you have to say to them?
Yeah, I'd have to say for sure the relationships with the locals is pretty much 90% of the challenge, at least in the beginning. If the people aren't familiar with what you're doing or supportive of it, then you might as well call it a day. At the start, it's definitely about engaging, getting to know the locals, and gaining their support before doing any investment or going forward. And once you're through that hurdle, things become a lot easier, a lot smoother. Yeah.
Well, if you have any questions for Tom about anything he just spoke about, you can go to macna.org/questions, click on Tom's name and ask your question there. Tom will be available at the end of the day for the Q&A. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your work, and I missed your hat.
Thank you, Tom.